So this is Kal Kat, the Kal Caster, and this is a spoilery review of Wanda Vision episode 8, previously on. Is the name of it? Basically the Agatha takes her through. Agatha traps her in the rune castle place under the basement, and then Wanda. And most of the episode is her showing Wanda the stages of grief via the thing. There's a flashback to the 1600s where this other witch lady was apparently, her origin is, she's either magic, they're thinking DC, or one of the other early witch characters from, so it's somebody from Marvel, but it's like mixed in with DC, which is the case with Submariner, Aquaman as well, and Superman, Shazam as well. So there's like the other characters are sort of mixed, and Captain Marvel. So there's the cross pollination going on, superhero doing things. The Agatha is the first guess out of the gate that's completely wrong. The fans were guessing was that the kids were somehow her unborn twins that weren't born, and no, there's nothing like that in there. There can't be. She wasn't. So that story is completely debunked right away. They're not somehow a message or a metaphor about unborn children. That's not what's going on at all. I don't know where they got that from. I know that in the comic books, in one universe, in one reality, she did have children that died, apparently. But that's not what's going on here. This is the MCU as related to Disney. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't. This is Disney. They're not going to do that. The witch lady is like the lady from Charmed. She's like evil, but not evil. She's like Disney evil, Disney villainous basically. But is she also evil? So they're both evil. Or what the fans did guess is that the general dude that's behind the whole thing is behind some of it, is actually trying to apparently take apart and reassemble Vision at some point in a lab, and they have to go and get that. Back in the ancient war times, there's a war scene where she and her brother are watching movies, and we're introduced to the parents. Of course, this is a vision of them, so they're not accurate, but the whole thing has not been accurate. It's been like, oh, this is a TV show as they see it. So even though he has he looks like a modern father guy from 2020. 2021. He doesn't look like somebody from probably 30 years ago, or well, they're probably 10 in that scene. So 20 years ago. Yeah, she's 30 now. So 20 years ago. So it would have been the early 2000s. And she just has a love of old movies, so they set that up. Mark's Cards knew about that ahead of time somehow. Yeah, connection. He knew about that ahead of time. So she just loves old movies. Yeah, it's canon in this universe in the MCU. It doesn't really make sense, but it's canon, so just go with it. So Vision technically was just created recently, so she's in effect in love with a person that's actually too young for her, not too old for her, too young for her. Which is weird too, and on its face. The twin thing is not any kind of metaphor. They're not going in that direction at all. Why no. They're a metaphor for her and her brother, as it becomes evident in the story. The brother, the parents killed before their eyes is a common war trope, even done later on by other gurus and such, saying, "Oh, the war! I saw somebody die before my eyes. I was traumatized," which is true. Some people were. But in the case of gurus, they often will say that and can't really prove that either way. But in the case of this story, there's like this sort of like she goes to see Vision's body, and Vision's being dismantled by the bad guy. And this is a little bit later in the story. and apparently she grabbed his hand as she was leaving and left with the hand. And she goes to this house where she goes to the city, where they're at in Westview, and TV is in the middle of it. Westview TV. That isn't where TV came from, and Wanda Vision is not a man of vision. But yeah. Anyway, so there's this empty house lot with this building that isn't built on it, and she freaks out on the lot, and she builds a house and assembles the world and assembles the anomaly, and so the ending beginning, ooh, the kind of thing. The witch lady then has the children outside, and they're trapped, and so there's, although the part where she reassembles the house and then does that part, then they jump to a sound stage, where she's on the sound stage and she's clapping, the witch is clapping. Liz disappears from there, then they go on to the other thing. She's got the kids with her magic powers around their neck. What happened earlier is she came in contact with the Mind Stone, Soul Stone thing. Not the Mind Stone. It would have been one of the Infinity Stones. It's what gave her powers, which is different from the comics and different from X-Men Origins, different from the other universe. In the other universe, she and her brother Quicksilver are the children of Magneto. So she has Magneto powers, but also kinetic powers, and can move stuff with her mind, whereas he can run fast. So they're the children of Magneto. Also in the original X-Men comic books and stuff, the origin of the other characters are different. And I understand that Rambo from the previous episode, is not Captain Marvel, the new Captain Marvel, yet. She is another character. She is like the Huntress or something, or something like that. The Huntress? No, that's not right. I know it's somebody else, but I'm not going to look it up. It's somebody else. She also is in contact with the anomaly and gets powers, but we don't get to see her in this one. And then we have to go through the story and come to a point where we come to the end, and the witch has them, and that's the end of the story. So we have this elaborate thing going on. That's the genesis of the story. Very Cillian-like, very much like something out of a cross between Cillian Space, the planet, and also and Marvel, as if they got together. We did not really have anything to do with it. It just happened that way. Happy accident. Or is it? To do something during the COVID thing. No, we had nothing to do with WandaVision. If we did, we would not be operating from a small place like this. Would be a big studio and all that. No, we have nothing to do with that. Can't take any credit for WandaVision. But it is interesting that they clearly bred some of that other stuff. They also this episode is a nod to Charmed, apparently. The other one was the previous one was a nod to Modern Family. And as some other people besides me pointed out, the idea of somebody breaking the fourth wall and talking to the audience, saying, "Oh, this thing that just happened, it shouldn't have happened," kind of thing. But as I also pointed out on some of the other reviews of it, she's that idea in a sitcom of them sort of breaking the fourth wall and standing back and looking at it, is not only goes back to the beginning of reality TV. That's the whole point. Back to at least the late 80s, with Beverly Hills 90210 and Melrose Place being within the same universe, and they're all like, "Oh, I'm in Melrose Place. I shouldn't have talked to her like that." That goes way back, way back. So it's not just Modern Family, but those people that are watching it now are the children, people our generation. So they're like, "Oh, we don't even remember. We don't know that this is what already happened," but everyone else seems to know. So then we have this whole thing with the whole thing, the WandaVision thing. So we have so that's something that's already been established. It's something that's already done, and so that show did not think of it. That show popularized it with the new generation. Before 2009, 20 years earlier in 90210. Well, also there's the oddity that Kal Kat almost got to be a contestant on one of the real world shows. Almost. And he knew of, yes, we knew of a contestant that was going to be on Real World Boston and Real World either Bay Area way back in the late 90s. And by then, so that was already established by the late 90s, that whole behind the scenes. They thought the Kal Kat was a little too, weird. So they didn't want it. Anyway, so that's the story. Oh, yeah. So, Wanda Vision, episode 8. That's it.